Before we get into today's video, if you're new, you like the NBA, high school, college, really if you just like basketball in general, I really think that you wouldn't like this channel. So if you aren't subscribed, feel free to like, subscribe, hit the notification button to be notified whenever I post a video. I upload at a new daily basis. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So liking, subscribing, commenting, doing things to help my videos get interacted with so YouTube recommends them to people would be a big help to help me reach my goal, and I'd be very thankful for that. But with that being said, let's talk about 5 NBA players who would have been consensus first overall picks if they were in this year's draft class. The 2020 NBA draft has gotten a reputation so far for being a quote-unquote weak draft class. And while I think it's too early necessarily to say this is a weak draft class, we've seen plenty of draft classes that have been called weak and they've ended up being fine. Look at 2016, look at 2013 as clear examples as these quote-unquote weak draft classes that have ended up being just plain out fine. However, I do believe that compared to other years when we look at these players as prospects, it isn't necessarily as strong as other years, especially these past few years with the prospects that we've gotten. There's no consensus first overall pick in this year's draft, and my friend pointed out and gave me the idea to make a video about recent prospects, so going back as far as probably 2017, that would be consensus first overall picks if they were in this year's draft class. One thing I will say is no first overall picks. First overall picks are off limits. If there's a first overall pick in a past draft, especially if we're only going back to like 2017, they definitely would be the first overall pick in this class. So no guys like Ayton and Zion and Andrew Wiggins and Markelle Fultz. No guys like that. Also, Luka Doncic will not be in this video. It's clear that he would be the number 1 pick in like every draft in like the past like 20 years, minus like the 2003 draft. That's the only draft he wouldn't be the first overall pick. It would just be too obvious. But I do think I have a list of 5 players, and let's get right into it. RJ Barrett was number 1 player in the class of 2018. He was actually originally in the class of 2019, where he was also ranked first. In fact, it was a pretty consensus that he was the best player in the class of 2019 before he reclassified. He is one of the most decorated high school athletes of the last 10 to 20 years, and I would say he is one of the most decorated high school basketball players we have seen since LeBron James coming out of high school. And he did this in the class with Zion Williamson. I think he'd be able to do it in the 2019 class as well. And had he gone on to Duke, still put up similar numbers to what he actually did in his freshman year. And he was a consensus first team All-American like he was in real life. Won the Jerry West Award for best shooting like he did in real life. And was first team All-ACC. Probably would have been ACC Player of the Year that year. And would have been in serious contention for National Player of the Year, putting up numbers like 25 points a game, 7 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game, considering that he probably would have the ball in his hands where Zion isn't there. I think it's pretty hard to say that he wouldn't be the number 1 pick, if not the consensus number 1 pick. Putting up better stats than Anthony Edwards, having more consistency than guys like LaMelo Ball. I just think that a scorer that can be somewhat of a playmaker and putting up good numbers in college, having a lot of success as a freshman in college. Listen, if he was a number 3 pick in a draft with guys like Zion Williamson and John Morant, and he was like considered a lock to go top 3, I think that he would easily be the consensus first overall pick in a much less talented draft class, in my opinion. I think it's funny because I bring up Lonzo because he's the brother of LaMelo, obviously. However, I bring him up because people are saying that LaMelo is a better prospect than Lonzo ever was. And I think it's just kind of ridiculous to say something like that. And I know LaMelo does have a higher ceiling than Lonzo does, knowing what we know now. But if you look at them both as prospects, you would probably take Lonzo 10 times out of 10. And the thing is, Alonzo Ball was a consensus number 2 player in a loaded draft class, or a draft class that was at least expected to be loaded. Like RJ, he was a consensus first-team All-American coming out of college, and if he was in this draft, like RJ as well, he would easily be the best freshman in the country, averaging 15 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. And again, like I said, consensus number 2 player in a draft class that had Jason Tatum, DeAaron Fox, and Jonathan Isaac, 3 guys that also would be in consideration, if not would be the number 1 pick if they were in this draft class as well. Again, if he was consensus number 2 in a draft with those guys, I think he would easily be the consensus first overall pick in this draft. People may now know Marvin Bagley III as the guy who was drafted in front of Luka Doncic, but he was also a very talented player at Duke. And coming out of high school, he was considered the best high school prospect since Anthony Davis. Now, why did I pick him when I said earlier in the video that I wouldn't be picking guys who view as generational talent? But I'm picking Marvin Bagley III because he was viewed as a generational talent coming out of high school. But once college came around, that generational hype died down. He was still considered a top prospect. But now, considering his reputation as a guy that has gone in front of Luka Doncic, I feel like I need to show him some love because he still is a very good player that has a very bright future. And I believe that if he went to Duke and he was still as dominant as he was, which I still think he would be because I don't think anyone on that Duke roster is as talented as him, he would still be ACC Player of the Year, a consensus first-team All-American. He would average 21 points and 11 rebounds, and he went top 2 in a really good class. In fact, that top 5 for the 2018 class might go down in history as one of the best top 5s in draft history regardless of sports if it all pans out. And again, if he went top 2 in that draft class, a draft class that was just loaded, he would easily be the top pick in this year's draft. And I believe that's starting to become a theme in this video. Jiren Jackson Jr. entering college was not expected to be a top 4 pick. He was top 10 in his class coming out of Lonzo, but no one expected him to be the 4th overall pick in the 2018 NBA draft. However, at Michigan, despite not really putting up eye-popping stats that really blow your mind away and scream top 5 pick, he was really good at Michigan State. And despite foul trouble, which he still struggles with by the way, he was still the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. And it's part of that top 5 that I was talking about when I was talking about Bagley that would be considered, if they all pan out, like one of the best top 5s of all time. I know you can say that about a lot of top 5s, but this one specifically, considering how good they are already, that's besides the point. But like Bagley, if he went top 4 in a good draft class with the guys that will be either all-star level players or have the potential to reach that kind of ceiling, I really think that he would be going to be consensus first overall pick in a weak draft class, considering the awards he won in college and his offensive versatility and the potential that we have there as well. And last, but certainly not least, we have DeAaron Fox, who was considered to be the next John Wall coming out of high school because he was committed to Kentucky, he was a point guard, and he was really fast. DeAaron Fox was actually really good when you watched him on tape in college, put up solid stats, really didn't have a lot of awards. He only was first team All-SEC and SEC Tournament MVP. He averaged 17 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, and 4 assists per game in college. So he really didn't have anything to indicate he was going to be the kind of 20-8 guy that I believe he's going to be for a very long time in the league. However, and this is really becoming a theme with this video, he went 5th overall in a draft class that was viewed to be stacked. A draft class that was viewed to be one of the better in recent memory. And considering the 2020 draft seems to be the opposite of that, I believe if you go top 5 in a quote-unquote loaded draft class, even if that draft class didn't end up being as loaded as we thought it would be, I think he would go 1st overall in a draft class that is viewed significantly less highly than the draft class he was actually in. So, again, kind of like a broken record, but I just wanted to show DeAaron Fox some love because, again, like I said in the video I made about him, no one really talks about him like that. So that is it. Those are 5 players that I believe would be the consensus 1st overall pick in this year's draft class, if they were part of this draft class, of course. Of course, there were plenty of other names I could have mentioned, and I know I missed out on a lot of players because I do believe there are a lot of players that would be the consensus 1st overall pick if they were in this year's draft class from past years and even future years. So I know I missed out on a lot of them. I wanted to limit it to 5 because I didn't want to spend an hour talking about guys. But because I did miss out on a lot of guys, feel free to leave those ones in the comment section below. Guys that I maybe missed, guys that probably would have been a better option to put in this video. But that's all I really got to say. So leave some feedback, maybe leave a video idea that I could do in the future. And have a nice day. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much. It means so much to me, guys. You guys don't understand. But again, thank you. Like and subscribe if you're new. Feel free to leave feedback in the comment section below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.